so good, and RNG all year long has looked so good. It almost feels like it's there. It's so favored towards them.
And almost more importantly, Gen G did not look good yesterday. They got absolutely steamrolled by Vitality in the Echo play, but we're right into it already. Again, the Analyst Desk, they kind of set it up here around the bottom lane. Ruler and Uzi are both so important to their teams. RC Kaisa is off the table, not letting Uzi get his hands on that late game carry champion with the best AD carry in the world. Probably a good idea.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if you're banning Kaisa, I also feel like you gotta get rid of Xayah. Like, you can take that for yourself, because that would just be his go-to pick, and that's what he played yesterday. Otherwise, Ashe, Varus are kind of the picks Ruler has been using a lot. He used the Ashe yesterday. Obviously, was not very successful because he flashed level 1 against a headbutt, and it kind of ruined the lane for him. But I need to see if it's a Xayah first pick coming in, especially with Urgot Aatrox already banned on the other side.
I always love seeing what the strategy is coming out from both teams from picks and bans. I do think the bans are somewhat open because you can trade picks back and forth. It's RNG saying, we don't want Kuve to carry from top, so Urgot and Aatrox are gone. And Gen G get rid of two of the most heavily contested power picks for bot lane with the Kaisa Alistar, hoping to somewhat neutralize Uzi Ming.
And I really like this angle from RNG in their ban phase. Kuve is notorious for his playoffs and Worlds buff and Gauntlet buff, and he definitely is a top laner who can play one of those champions to the hard carry potential. There it is, though, the Xayah that we did expect. This is very common first pick so far. They kind of present the opportunity for the opponent to split up the lovers duo, break up, get the recon for themselves, and force them into a squishier but very quick all-in engaged champion.
And right away, the Scion gets grabbed here. We know that is a flex between top and mid lane. We'll wait to see where that goes. Xiao, who's certainly a huge champion pool for him, an absolute monster on RNG. When it's not Uzi, it's him carrying, but when it is Uzi, of course, he takes a back seat, and Scion would fit the bill for an Uzi comp.
So we get Camille here, also can be flexed between top and jungle. I wonder if we get a supportive mid laner for Crown to play with the Camille and create a super strong 2v2 skirmish around mid, shut down Xiaohu, and use that to stop Uzi from winning bot lane too hard. We're gonna have to wait until the second phase before we get the mid lane choice. And I also want to see what Uzi plays in the AD carry position when Xayah and Kaisa gone.
Yeah, the Camille is so interesting right now because the G2 game is so fresh in everyone's memory where they use the Camille so effectively with Wonder split pushing, but I really do like Haru's Camille jungle.
Yeah.
And how quickly he can go for a lot of control early, getting those ganks off.
I really think Lulu Camille is a combination you can use. Crown Syndra was not great yesterday. In the Gauntlet, he was successful running a lot of utility-based picks, like things that have strong CC or good, abilities to buff a teammate. I think that's the style you should be looking for with him, but we're gonna have to wait and see what he actually decides to lock in. Sivir, however, is one of those AD carries that really returned to the meta and will still build the standard crit items.
Still a bit of a surprise, though. Neither Uzi nor Abel, their other AD carry, has played it all throughout the summer split. I'm a little surprised to see that picked up here. I also don't feel like it's that great into Xayah because Spell Shield, I believe, only blocks one Blade Caller feather, so this does seem a little weird to me.
That was the thing that I was immediately jumped in my mind as soon as I saw the pick. I was like, well, how fast is Uzi's reaction, and does it even
I don't think it's
cancel
good.
The root part?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I could be wrong. I don't remember the matchup that well, but this doesn't feel like a good matchup to me. But maybe there's something that they know they want to do that will work well here. I trust RNG. I trust them to know their bot lane matchups.
Ooh, I like the Aurelia ban here, especially because you're expecting to blind pick your mid laner and then Xiaohu can last pick his. And we've already seen Aurelia now be super, super scary. Actually, maybe because of the bans or because Ryze is available and Xiaohu loves to play Ryze. They grab it. Give me that, Lulu. We already talked about why it's good. Do it.
Look at how much mobility, too, is on the side of RNG with Rakan, Sivir ultimate, Ryze ultimate available for themselves, and constant choo-choo train right down the middle from Scion. They can force engagement, force flashes, and then use their follow-up speed to chase people down. Whereas Gen G, they do have the explosive, chase opportunity. But with the Olaf locked in, that is definitely going to be a solo lane Camille.
Yeah, and we have now solo laners plus jungler to really dominate that top side of the map. Olaf, Lulu against Ryze and Lee Sin around the mid lane. Level 6, I give that to Lulu Olaf to try and win that skirmish and shut down Xiaohu and Kasa. If that doesn't happen, we know Xiaohu is one of the best Ryze players in the world, and he will be able to move to a side lane, apply constant pressure, while Uzi is just perma-wave clearing mid on Sivir.
Gonna be an interesting game to watch. Gen G's comp looks very focused around Ruler. Lulu mid, of course, a lot of extra buffs there. The Braum for the front line. The only real big damage threat's the Camille, and not as threatening of a team fighter as a damage dealer there. So Ruler getting a lot of the pressure here on the team, and certainly an incredibly top-class bot laner. Ruler is super, super incredible. Probably the biggest carry threat on this team. I'm excited to see what he can do, but he's up against the best bot laner in the world in Uzi, and Ming, of course, an absolute star in his own right as well.
Definitely all true statements here from Freak in the opener. I am super excited as well for Karsa Lee Sin. This mid-jungle 2v2 that you're talking about has so much potential. The mobility of Lee Sin is very good into Olaf, but if you just do the stat check and have them 1v1 straight up, that will go over to Olaf. So you really do have to get more creative and choose your opportunities there. Use the execution damage to make sure you actually finish off the kill.
Well, here we go. Picks and bans are done. The lineups are secured, and Royal never give up. A 1-0 start to Worlds. The pre-tournament favorites going up against the defending world champions in their second game of Worlds 2018. Gen G was upset yesterday by Europe's Team Vitality, but they can make a statement here today by taking down RNG, and we are on to the Rift.
Very, very true. If Gen G lose, Korea will start 1-4. I've never seen them have such a bad start to a tournament. Meanwhile, RNG can make sure that China stays undefeated so far here in the group stages.
And it would be Gen G falling in Korea 1-4 in their home country. Some irony that would be in front of the home crowd, but they will hope to keep their fans excited here for this one. Let's look for a little bit of a semi-invade here, waiting this brush, hoping for maybe a trinket ward to come down or someone to overstep slightly.
I like the trends that we're seeing, though. More teams willing to go for these level ones, try and get that small advantage to open up the game. We've seen them have really big cascading effects throughout the early game.
So far, nothing is happening in terms of invades. Might get it one now.
Braum and Olaf, though. Braum, Olaf, basically two of the best level 1 champions in the entire game. Yeah. You can see Karsa immediately respects, backs off. They do scare his Ghost Pourer off. That will put it on cooldown, so he won't have any more security. And they drop off a ward in the Raptor pit, so he's getting a little antsy.
And a defensive trinket ward comes down from Crown, but Ming started with a sweeper and could get rid of that if he wanted to help Lee Sin invade, and indeed that will happen. The 10 gold given over and shared with Uzi down to this one as Haru's going to have himself a quick blue buff start solo, as it typically is, and Karsa the same on the top side with the red buff.
Yeah, Ming is starting sweeper on his side, and he actually stayed around the mid lane to kill the ward placed by Crown, I believe. There's a ward just outside the Raptor camp. Karsa could be looking to try and play towards that bottom side early. We know Sivir push is very strong initially the moment she walks down into the laning phase. But obviously with KoJJ and Ruler starting in the lane, they are able to quickly take care of the first few melee minions.
Yeah, definitely rushing a little bit into the work there. Does get the push for Uzi and Ming. Shield's going out as well. Guardian, pretty standard there from KoJJ. Does block a little bit of the chip damage. Meanwhile, mid lane, actually Crown getting some nice glitter lances through the minion wave.
Yeah, we still know that Lulu's early damage is very strong. Good base damage on her. She can take a lot of these quick trades against a lot of mid laners. But her main focus is still going to be playing with your jungler in the early game when Haru comes to mid.
Exactly. It's so much about the 2v2 around that mid lane. Ryze has the root to set up. Lulu fairly squishy and a good target, but also the polymorph into an Olaf rundown, very, very threatening.
And tracking Haru, I think, will be super interesting. He has, of 13 tracked junglers in Korea, the lowest jungle proximity, which is time spent near his teammates in the first 15 minutes. Despite the fact that he puts out the least gank statistically, he has the highest kills and assists at 15 per game of all the junglers in Korea. When he ganks, it works every time.
Yeah, exactly. Very efficient ganks he's able to pull off. The time spent, definitely not very high, but the effectiveness is definitely there. Meanwhile, on the other side, Karsa, he is running this Dark Harvest, which has gained a lot of momentum since the changes to Electrocute for a lot of champions that used to take it. But there is a huge difference. Dark Harvest, you have to stack up before you get to your 150 stacks first, it only lasts 20 seconds after the last one that you just picked up. So people thinking that they're going to have a similar electrocute burst damage in the early game in those skirmishes, really have to make it very quick after killing a jungle camp or picking one up, from a cannon minion or someone dying to actually get that value. Otherwise, you're going into combat without a huge part of why people used to take things like electrocute on those types of champions.
He's also losing his Raptor camp. He actually decided to skip it on the first clear because it was watered by Gen G. He did the 2 camps, red buff Crocs, and then he walked down to the Rift Scuttler, secured that one, and just kills his bottom side. So both junglers, all focuses on farming. Haro can just wait for his boots, potentially even level 6 before he starts doing anything. And xiaohu should know he might be a target here. Meanwhile, top lane, the famous saying of let me always trying to just neutralize the lane. He's on the tank, but we saw with Wonders Camille, while you do not necessarily destroy a sign in the early game, get to 2 items and you will be such a massive threat in the side lane.
Exactly. The main goal for Camille is gold in the early game, trying to build up your items. Once you start to get your Tiamat built, your Trinity Force built, so you have burst damage, you have AoE pushing on the wave, then you get way more options. You can take advantage of the champion's kit. Camille with one of the longest engage ranges of any champion in League of Legends with your hookshot off a wall towards a champion and Hextech Ultimatum, that starts to open up those opportunities.
One thing that does surprise me a bit looking at this game is how much RNG is pushing with only half the trinket wards available to their squad and have so far been able to not be touched by Haru yet. Though Haru doesn't gank a whole lot, he does spend his time bot lane. He's actually an above average bot lane ganker for LCK standards and a spot I would expect him to be in. So far, though, nothing much happening, and they've been able to be safe in this bottom lane, Uzi and Ming untouched.
Important slow there from Crown onto xiaohu, keeping this distance. He's kiting this rise so that the Rune Prison doesn't go off. Once that thing lands, that's where the Lee Sin commits all in, and they get the big gank around mid lane. But he's playing very well, allowing an Olaf to take advantage of his very quick clear and power farm.
Exactly. Second Crocs camp on the bottom side now for Haro. He's already level 5. Kasa was waiting for his camps to respawn. That's why he looked towards mid lane. But he's going to be pretty far behind in experience. And we already mentioned that level 6 for Olaf with the Lulu to just try and run down xiaohu. If you win mid lane in the early game, you use that to go bot lane and stop Uzi from doing what he's doing now, which is effectively just pushing the lane all the time. You can already see a small CS difference between the two 80 carries, but we know that the mid lane is still the focus.
So far, so good for RNG, though able to do well on the bottom side. Of course, overall, the farm is quite nice on the Gen G side with 500 gold ahead, and the jungle being a very big part of that one, of course. But now a fight in the top side. Ultimate's available on both. A channel, not quite the knockup, though. Kube not going to continue for this fight, as Let Me able to do just fine on that trade.
Haro got level 6 now on the camp in the bottom side. He snuck his way down as well. Kasa is not even nearby. He needs to just keep killing camps to get level 6 on his own side. Don't know if they actually spotted him. Ming was looking around.
Yeah, Ming landed the Q there onto Core JJ. I don't know if that small little visibility actually extended to Haru.
But the lane is pushing now.
There could be that play, but look how Ming is playing up, and he can jump back to Uzi to make sure he stays safe. Just W's backwards. There's no way to stop that guy from getting out there. Yeah, doesn't even need a spell shield. No problem there, and Haru will have an unsuccessful gank in the bot lane. Okay. Rare for him.
It's so impressive. I mean, people are always gushing over Uzi and Ming in their lane, but it's not just the offensive play, and they've been able to deny CS, get that CS lead for themselves in the 2-2 already with their Sivir counter pick, but then also the defensive play there, effortlessly almost evading.
And here's Karsa flashing for that one into the immediate knockup. There is a flash. He's going to try to get out, and Kuve does just that.
Oh, they just barely didn't have the extra damage to finish off the kill, even with the explosive flash kick there from Karsa. Kuve gets out.
That was so sick, though, the synergy and how quickly they execute the combo. Karsa jumps in, flash kick into an ulti from a sign. They've used so much of their CC right now. They do not get a knock-up from the Q. And Cube managed to get in range near the wall. He gets out, he stays alive. Meanwhile, bot lane, a big trade in favor of Ruler and Core JJ. Uzi is forced back, and he used both summoners in that trade here.
Traded summoners with Core JJ, lost his summoner heal. Of course, it was Ruler who brought TP to keep his laning phase a little bit nicer to make sure those recalls weren't bad. It's Uzi now taking the long walk back here, and it's not a cannon wave, which means these minions will die rapidly. Ming cannot freeze this with the pressure on him, and there's going to be a lot of minions lost for Uzi.
Yeah, this is very big. QV staying alive top and getting the flash from Casa, and then you force the flash bot lane as well.
Yeah, that was just so clutch there, him getting out, because as I mentioned before, the extra burst damage actually is there for Karsa. He finished off the red buff, and before the 20 seconds Dark Harvest actually expired, he got there. But bottom side, this is what went down. Ruler, Core JJ jump in onto Uzi. They get the stun, uses the ultimate here to try and burst him down. Ignites both used, but unable to find the kill and first blood.
Pretty big mistake, however, from Uzi. Not only did he greed by staying forward without Ming next to him, also didn't get to spell shield the initial Q from Core JJ, and then had to use both summoners to get out. So definitely a win for Gen G. Can they actually go down and get something from this? And Olaf can run down this no flash Sivir so easily.
Yeah. Definitely true. No summoners available for the escape, and Haru been farming very efficiently so far this game. Should be able to route down there pretty quickly. Vision has also been cleaned out preemptively in this area, so both teams should know that this is a prime target.
We'll see if those ganks come through a somewhat defensive control ward there for Royal Never Give Up. Want to make sure that bot lane can stay safe as Uzi is shoving. Not a lot of attack damage though, means the wave clear is actually a little bit low. You don't kill those casters with the Q and the W that easily with only a couple of longswords.
Yeah, he's only sitting on 400 gold as well, so it will be quite some time before he can actually get anything useful for himself. And that is, it's good to see the Gen G bottom lane, the one we actually hyped up so much during Worlds last year and said this was the main win condition for this team when they took down SKT. Remained the same during all of 2018 where Ruler was the big carry. Great to see him stand up here and actually go slightly ahead of Uzi.
Yeah, Ruler was definitely impressive this year. I mean, especially in the Gauntlet run, where he's Varus ulting the Rakan, engages multiple times, trying to stop those ones right in front of his face. This time around, he is on the Xayah. Gen G, Haru, and the bottom lane are starting up the Mountain Drake plus Scuttle Crab, and will be able to use this control to be able to take some objectives for themselves and push it a little bit further.
400 gold lead plus the Mountain Drake. Gen G look a little bit back on form. The typical way that Gen G wins is actually not with the first bloods and early kills. It's CS leads and first turret. They give up very, very little, very few deaths, very few turrets. They're actually a very good early game team because they give up nothing, and they're on pace for that kind of a play again.
Juve tries to go in and get a stun there onto Let Me, but it is denied by the ultimate. One of the things they have lost a little bit in this game early is, of course, the CS difference with QV and Let Me on the top side. There was the Karsa gank, even though they didn't get the kill, did cost them a huge chunk of health, as well as you know, his flash, requiring him to play much more defensively.
Definitely will delay him quite a bit. It's very expensive items he's looking for in the early game, and he's not a huge kill threat before he actually gets them. And sure, we know that he will take down turrets with a Trinity Force very effectively, but right now, it's pretty far away. So while you have the advantage for Ruler bottom side with the BF sword, Uzi's just getting some attack speed to just wave clear. He doesn't need to trade. And it's actually QV who's constantly taking a bunch of damage up there against their Sion, and Kasa's on his way towards top side, potentially a tower dive.
So exciting here, how the game developing this closely between the two teams here with the most recent international success. Gen G defending champions, and RNG have won all of the tournaments so far this year. As you said, he slipped into the brush on top side, but he was seen on a ward, so look at bottom side, they're actually overloading, and it is going to be a charge getting off.
Royal Never Give Up, gonna start winning through top lane. Not typical for a comp with Uzi on it, but with Ruler handling that pretty well. Let Me is instead the win condition, at least early on. A big lead in lane, 33 CS up.
Gets
first
another
turret
charge.
gold shared with Karsa, and that is indeed another charge from that turret, losing a lot of health down there as the wave is getting denied.
And the problem for Gen G here, they couldn't actually go and make a play bot side because Sivir, with the early attack speed, just killed the wave instantly. There was nothing to actually set up a play with. And that means now RNG, with Kasa controlling top side and Let Me winning his lane, gets a nice little chunk of gold. Short most of it onto the side, but he's very tanky already.
And normally, all your gold on a tank doesn't mean a ton. You usually want that gold on a Xayah or a Sivir or some other hard carry, but it's a full physical damage team aside from a Merc Treads Lulu. You can just stack armor and might never die this game.
Yep, he's already got the attack speed reduction aura in his Frozen Heart completed. Plus, cooldown reduction is so great on Sion. Earlier in the Champ Select, we mentioned the repeatability of his engage, and that cooldown shrinks so quickly later the game goes, especially with the early Frozen Heart built up. That's going to allow RNG to dictate the pace.
He's on 175 armor at 13 minutes into the game. So if a Xayah or something walks up to him, will not deal any damage to this Sion, and that means RNG, once this laning phase ends, can actually start using Sion to just force engages really, really well around mid with his ulti. Then they can use that pressure to go bot lane for Uzi. We'll just be a little bit careful here.
Spell shields the slow. Will there be a knockup? Yes, but not aimed right, or we expected Uzi to juke. Walks in a straight line, gets away.
Uzi not taking any chances, pops his ult for the extra little bit of speed there just to make sure the ult doesn't tag him. And again, gets right back to pushing the lane. The Sivir pick definitely performing well for them. They've absorbed ganks from the Olaf. They created their own little CS lead early on and have been able to stay very safe.
And this is actually a good tip for AD carries in solo queue. If you do struggle a little bit in your lane, rushing a BF sword is not always the best thing you can do. Like we see AD carries go for instantly tier 2 boots with attack speed in it, and your entire focus is just on wave clearing and not actually trading with the enemy. When you do that, you kind of even out this lane despite you being slightly behind in terms of attack damage, and your team can do something elsewhere.
And honestly, you know, people were kind of joking about how Uzi renamed his account to Fnatic Reckless, you know, on solo queue, but that's the other player that we've seen do this, right? Play Sivir when a lot of other people are not playing Sivir, build early attack speed for shoving the wave, and he's definitely doing Reckless proud.
Especially when your only way to survive a gank is run away. Turns out move speed's really good for that. You know, an Ezreal or Caitlyn maybe can just like hook shot away or whatever else. But yeah, this is certainly something that might be required when an Olaf might run at your lane.
And while Haro here, he's done really well in terms of farming. I actually thought we would see more action from the Olaf. And I thought we would see him and Crown group together and try and get some pressure in first towards Yahoo and then towards the jungle. Try and get a bit of deep vision down and use that pressure to threaten the bot lane. Like we've seen a lot of tower dives being set up in the early game when you have mid lane control. But Haro's not really been around the lane whatsoever. He's just been continuing to farm or look towards the bottom lane.
And to that end, Haro has farmed up a Storm, 120 CS here to him on the Olaf, and has allowed him to complete an early Black Cleaver, which is a very offensive-oriented item and will help in shredding specifically the Sion's armor. So Olaf, you know, throw the Undertow, try and get some auto attacks up on the front line. Olaf doesn't always have to dive straight to the back. He's going to try and soften up a little bit, maybe the front line, to allow the DPS on his team to get to work.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's enough assassination damage here for Genji. The ult out of Cuvée is pretty well telegraphed. Uzi can survive that without too much difficulty. Might have been part of the reason he picked Sivir was just to get away from Camille. And though the lane was maybe a bit testy, he's doing okay here. Ming's going to feel safe, just jumps right back in. And that's one of those powers of Rakan. You can kind of play that front line and bait some skill shots and jump right back to your teammates.
Also waiting for Kasa and his next play. We saw that one move into the top lane where he got the flash, forced QA out of lane, returned with the Rift held. But it's been about it. It's been a very passive early game. Two teams who obviously prefer to just go towards the late game and play really big, explosive team fights. But that's where most people would say RNG should be favored.
And I think that Genji do have that extra wrinkle of we're waiting for Camille to get to a stronger split pushing point. They actually
You're gonna have to wait for a long time.
Yeah, they actually don't really want this 5-on-5 Sivir empowered like giant Sion running at them. They're like, please, Cuvée, get some money in your pockets. Get your Tiamat, your Trading Force built up so that we can, you know, try and push on the other side of the map a little bit to get something back for themselves. But because of Karsa and Let Me, that is going to be such a delayed game plan.
Oh, yes. You got a Phage, there's a Tiamat, there's a Sheen. On the other side, you got one fully completed item, almost two fully completed items on some of these players.
RNG ahead of schedule, and Genji trying to make up that time.
And getting bot lane a little bit low as well, just below half HP now on bot lane outer turret. Those occasional shoves are working for RNG, and they're stacking up armor nicely as well. You're seeing the arm guard come through, but now, a flash over the wall, but here comes Olaf, and Haru's not satisfied. The knockup is there, and they might just get first blood. They do, as Karsa goes down, still fighting towards Ming, but the squad is around. A knockup for CoreJJ. In comes Sai on Choo Choo, as Haru will quite drop down to the crossblade, as 2 kills are answered back for RNG.
Well, we got what we wanted. We needed to see the Olaf get in a fight, secure a kill. The problem here, Cuvée stays top lane with his TP. Let me instantly responded, got down towards the bottom lane, and once the Olaf flashes over the wall, he's never getting out.
Yep, that was a commitment of 2 members from Gen G, very deep, without, as you said, a teleport from the top laner. So if everybody from RNG does join, they're going to have the advantage, and that's what ended up. But they still, in the end, did get the first kill.
Well, RNG got the bot lane turret. Would probably have taken down eventually anyway. Cuvée did not secure the turret. I thought this could have been a big deal for him. Staying top, get the turret, all the gold just for him. Sadly, it is still alive.
Yeah, I mean, Haru looked like he had been farming a lot of jungle camps all game and got a little bit fed up with it. Wanted a champion kill for himself, catching Karsa in the enemy jungle red-handed right next to the dragon pit. No hesitation. He's immediately in there. But again, teleport does come in from RNG, who collapsed with everyone. And so CoreJJ, who follows Haru to commit to this, also gets caught up, and it ends up being 2 for 1 rather than just a 1 for 1 with the extra little bit of first blood money.
And that does seem like a weird choice from CoreJJ, because they had to know that Cuvée was not teleporting and Let Me did. You already got the kill before he flash ulted in. You can make that trade and let your top laner split push. That felt like maybe miscommunication or greed from CoreJJ in what they know is a worse fight.
Very true. Definitely agree on that one. Meanwhile, Uzi got the bot lane turret. He's now mid with the red buff. And we get that 1-3-1 setup with RNG, where Sion is holding the Camille. And then you have Xiaohu on the rise. I've seen a lot from him so far until that last fight. 2 items fully completed, 20 minutes. TF fully stacked. No one is going to stop him 1v1. And this is what RNG loves to do. They split up in 1-3-1 to push the lanes. And then they use the push to group and fight around Uzi.
That's the thing. You know, even if Cuvée does get the completed Trinity Force, Rise already has Tabbies and completed Hourglass. So if RNG just rotates Xiaohu to take, you know, Sion's place, then where is the momentum and the pressure really going to come from? It kind of has to be maybe a mistake from RNG here around a dive or some sort for Gen G to really pull it through.
Yeah, we see the move here. We just mentioned how the Xiaohu moves up towards the mid lane to be a threat. Sion moves down. I was going to mention, okay, maybe Cuvée with TP advantage can set up a 5-4, but it's Sion. He's just going to ult from his lane to join the fight, so it's not really anything you can utilize.
Ming.
Oh, he's just being a threat, zoning them away a little bit.
Yeah. And none of the engage for Gen G outside of Cuvée is hard enough and consistent enough to threaten a Rakan. Everything is telegraphed that he can just W backwards, jump to a teammate. Ming gets to play this aggressively because of how few point-and-click crowd controls there are. The mid lane siege continues, and consistently they must defend this RNG sort of pressure as Uzi can knock down that turret if you give him enough time. Top lane finally does fall, but half the gold gets lost. No one's there for that 250 local.
All right, Gen G trying to clear out all of this vision that RNG set up through their own jungle to allow themselves the opportunity to keep Cuvée up there, keep this Trinity Force completed Camille, you know, in that isolated situation. It just makes it so difficult because, as Officio mentioned, Rise Realm Morph is ready. Xiaohu's constantly threatening the transition from bottom to mid.
And this map setup makes the Lulu pick useless because she's stuck in a 1v1 lane that she can't win, and therefore she can't even use her ability to like speed up an Olaf or something where he can run forward and set up a play. You have Ardent Sensor as well for Ruler, but you're stuck bot lane in this lane here. So Gen G, once we get like a map reset where RNG decides to recall, go back and spend their gold, that's when Gen G will push out the lanes, and then they have to try and make a play as a group with Ruler and Crown together near an objective, because they can't just wait for this Camille. It takes too long right now for Cuvée to get in the game.
Yeah, I mean, Genji being pushed in on all sides right now. RNG not letting up on the pressure, not allowing them really, an opening to set up any sort of surprising play. Cloud Drake is on the way, and we expect RNG to complete their reset here as we see the recalls from Let Me and Ming get off before this thing gets into a place. And they should be able to go claim that one for themselves.
Waiting for that next play. Cloud Drake has spawned an RNG already in the river. They've recalled the team. They're coming in about 5 to 10 seconds. And CoreJJ going to face check into this. Who's going to push him a little bit back in respect for Ruler.
This is what we just talked about. RNG resets. They go back to base. CoreJJ and Genji get a chance to move into the river. The problem is they're sitting on a lot of gold. Almost every member is above 1,000 gold in their bags. They haven't been able to go back and spend it, except for CoreJJ. But that's what happens when you get pushed in all 3 lanes. Sometimes you have to take a fight, even without the perfect setup.
Meanwhile, Let Me on this Scion has completed the Thorn Mail at 23.5 minutes already. And he is going to be a huge nuisance in the front line. So, as we expected, RNG do collapse on it. They finish off the Drake, but the fight might still take off.
But Sion's well positioned. He's in the front line. The flash engage, a nice ult for Ruler, keeps himself alive. But the Pain Train's in the front line. There's a stun on Braum. They don't get the kill just yet. Karsa's gonna flash. He kicks in Ruler, but no kill just yet. Haru gets his kill into Karsa. It's jungle against jungle. 2 kills picked up as Uzi goes down. Kube finds the assassination. Finally, Xiao says, okay, it's on me. They turn one back, but Genji win the fight.
Insane counterpunch here from Genji, and they're able to outplay that fight. They take down Uzi so quickly. No flash even goes off. And now it is a 4 versus 3 situation. RNG still pushing up, though, and it looks like we're going to have Haru come join defense on this turret.
Well, they get a bit of damage on it. Oh, CoreJJ stepping forward next to Q.
Yeah, there's no engage tools, though, with Braum ult down, so they feel safe enough despite it being a 3v4, but they do force the slightly slower recall, and they've got the team back on the map now.
And remember, this is, again, Genji with a lot of gold in their bag, still taking the fight. What ends up happening is they spend so much on Ruler, even Karsa goes for him instead of taking the easy kill on the Braum, and then Cube from behind kind of shows up out of nowhere, and no one can protect Uzi.
Yeah, he gets right back, sticks onto Uzi, uses the ultimate, knocks away Ming and Zhao, who they're buying time for himself. They eventually answer with the flash, but I just want to emphasize how difficult of a fight that was for Genji. There is no way they win front to back. This Scion is fully stacked. He just went back and purchased. He's the only guy who spent all of his gold. Plus, he's one of the most fed members in the game. So they worked around him. That was such a creative way for them to get around the huge wall that RNG had set up. But also, I think RNG just jumped the gun there a little bit too fancy.
Greedy, yeah.
They didn't need to get that fancy.
No, if you're RNG, because you have this fed tank you just mentioned, Kobe, you can literally just focus on killing the enemy front line first. You don't have to dive in and kick back the AD carry and overextend.
That first engage, though, I mean, he didn't have QSS yet for Ruler. He got the ult off just in time to dodge Ming. If Ming hits that RW, I think that's a kill straight up. It's a 5v4 and there is no follow-through. So really tight margins. I understand why they tried, but props to Ruler for being completely on point.
The caliber of the players in this game is the highest in the world, Freak.
Yes.
And those are the types of plays that we have come to expect from these players.
Oh, bot lane, look at this here. A lot of damage from Xiao. Karsa, he's spotted.
Okay. Kuve's in a 1v2 now as Rise going to show up with the Realm Warp.
No!
And that's not a good hook shot. And he's got to run. He's a little bit speedy. He kills some minions, finds a slow kick into the wall. And where can Kuve go? He's flashed down. He's trying to get some move speed at hitting some of the minions. And just running and running and running as far as his sword legs will take him. Another slow, still running Xiao, who's soon to be in range. But can they chase? And keep in mind, he's maybe got the damage. No. Xiao gets the burst, a good kill on the side lane.
And you can tell, Genji, we're like, with hands up in the air. What else can we do? Maybe Baron move over. Nothing they can get done. Just a scuttle grab and some control words get down. So that's a very good pick from RNG with no answer possible from Genji.
Well, RNG on their side now. IH just got completed for Uzi. Nothing on the other side because Ruler had to go QSS. You just want to fight so badly if you're RNG at this point with your strong tank and now your strong AD carry.
Again, front to back, and he's working on another completion here as well. This Scion is going to be so incredibly tanky. As you said, true damage crits will come through from Uzi, and we know the story of late game Sivir bouncing those blades through the entire team. We'll see though, Genji still have a lot left in them. Rise split pushing on bottom sides, making them react.
Yeah, we see Cube on his way back towards that bottom lane here. It was actually really interesting in the 1v1 or 1v2, I guess it was. Kaza didn't want to fully commit, knowing the damage this Camille can still deal towards him. Sure, she's still behind in the game, but we've already seen the Q nuke.
Yep. I mean, the way that they have to navigate the team fight from Gen G's side is around this Scion. Here we go, though. 2v1.
2v1 this time against Xiaohu. They might get revenge. Let Me is here. The shields are pretty big. The knockup's coming, and a TP is joining. Now for Gen G, they might get more. Xiaohu's dead. Uzi chasing in the core JJ, but might get turned around. He's slowed, and Haru is here. He's got a flash away, but stays alive. But now Let Me is trapped.
Here we go.
This could be 2 kills for Gen G, and they've found themselves right back into the game.
Cuvée gets his revenge. He is making this Camille work. They find the pick. That is 2 more kills for Gen G.
The first deaths for Let Me and Xiaohu, both of whom were very far ahead in their matchups. A big factor in the win so far, but now the gold is tied and Gen G run right for that top river.
And Uzi lost all his summoners because he tried to help when the fight was already over. If Gen G start the Baron, they can collapse and not know they're keeping Cuvée bot lane. He can take down this turret while RNG trying to defend mid. What a huge turnaround. Crown on the Lulu, joining the fight. This Camille is suddenly getting really, really strong.
Such a huge proactive play there from Gen G to be the one to get the early advantage, 2v1ing that Rise, getting such a big health advantage that even when the teleport came in from Let Me, they had already done so much that they were able to take out big DPS source, and no one else from RNG had an easy route.
But just before the fight, we said, listen, RNG, they just want to get a team fight right now with the strong AD carry, but instead, it becomes the split-up skirmish where Lulu Camille are just way stronger in the 2v2 than a tank that they don't even care about because it's all about killing the Rise.
Exactly. Gen G's motive is to go around the Scion, not through him. So they split up the team. They can kill him when he's isolated. Cuvée making good use of the second activation, true damage from Camille off of the Q to find that kill. And RNG need to keep it together if they want to actually take this victory and stay undefeated in the group. Their focus seems to be framed.
They need to 5 versus 5. No more 2v2s, 1v1s in the side lane. Camille, she is too strong at this point.
And Cuvée, you can see the damage from that fight, his double kill. This is a player, I think, above anyone else who gets a Worlds buff. He is a decidedly middling top laner in LCK until he comes to Worlds, and then he beats the Worlds best.
Yeah, or the Gauntlet to get him to Worlds. Works there, too.
Once Worlds is in the title, he becomes the best top laner.
Definitely agreed. You guys said I was going to have to wait a while. Well, now we're here. He's got the lifesteal as well with the Ravenous Hydra upgrade on his teammate, so he can quickly clear the wave and make the first move for Gen G. This is the time in the game where we're waiting for, where we get to see the power of splitting them across the map. He can push out a side wave and try and force RNG to split up back into these skirmishes that Gen G favor.
See what happens around their mid lane, because Let Me stay here for quite a while. That means Cuvée gets free push bottom side.
Oh.
RNG's answer normally is going to be start at Baron, because Let Me has no TP. Xiaohu can go bot with his TP and stop him, but he's recalling right now. The ward will actually spot him. They're probably going to stop his... Yeah, there we go.
The Camille split push just continues. No one's on that side of the map just yet. It's going to be really big damage.
And this is really sloppy by RNG. That is not respecting the split push whatsoever.
2 members are actually going over there. They had Xiaohu and Cyan moving over, but then they call off the play because the tower's already dead. And Gen G gets some more gold in their pockets. It's not even just the split push anymore. This is completed death cap on Lulu.
Oh, they're coming mid now.
Look out for this one. Here comes the collapse, and Rise is a little bit later on this play. Cuvée doesn't go for it, and now Xiaohu is back.
Yep, careful. You don't want to mess with the full 5-on-5. They do complete their defense here for RNG, but as I was about to say, the Lulu really making Ruler an insane threat. The true damage crits are at the point where he can actually get through this front line now that we've been talking of the whole game. He's got the added attack speed, move speed as well coming through, and you can see him trying to get those feathers down.
But we've now seen, and RNG probably will learn very quickly, that if you sit mid lane with your team, you have to start committing to either the turret or the Baron to actually force Cuvée to not just push bot lane. You need to force him to move from bot to join a team. What happened before here was RNG sat in mid, decided not to do anything with it, and then realized too late, hey, someone needs to stop this guy bot lane. A Baron play must happen soon, otherwise Cuvée takes you in him.
Remember earlier when we were saying RNG was getting too fancy with their team fight around Dragon? Now they have to get a little bit fancy. They can't just do you know, the standard walk down lane because Gen G aren't giving them that timing window.
All right, well, waiting for the next mid-game play, though. 33 minutes in, RNG on 3 Drakes. Gen G have a mountain to themselves. Elder Dragon, of course, coming up next. Baron's been alive for a while. And the side lanes looks a little bit Gen G favorite, pushing in towards RNG's base. Push down in the mid lane. RNG keeping that turret alive so far. Yeah, from 28 minutes onward, it's been Gen G. And again, Ruler gets the ult off in time. Good dodge against Ming.
This guy has been so good at denying Rakan engages. He does it here again. Those are only 2 cooldowns traded, though. Actually, Sliver ultimate was also used, and they're taking
damage on Uzi down to 1K. That was actually huge and massive. Courtney J was crit, but it's bigger that Uzi is now so hurt.
They also just sent him up to take the farm on top side because he was so hurt. He'll try and lifesteal off it. That means only 4 members defending mid as Gen G start to collapse.
And we can just see how much damage they can deal here and how much protection Lulu can also offer to Ruler. His ult is on cooldown, so if we get another engage from Ming, Ruler cannot get out of it straight away. QSS also on cooldown.
One of the funny things about Lulu mid, early on, base damages, nice in lane. Mid-game, definitely could be a liability, but the late-game scaling that she adds to your marksman, if you have one of these world-class AD carry players empowered by the Ardent Sensor Lulu, it just brings a whole new level of threat to that damage output.
And here comes the dive. Courtney J is far to look for Ruler. He flashes him, but he's still been caught. The knockup. They're going to try to knock down Zaya, and they get it. It's a 5v3, and the chase is on. Crowd is running, but he's nowhere to defend the base. The turret's going to fall.
That was insane. We just talked about all the cooldowns for Ruler. He couldn't get away. Juve is now TPing away. He's not taking the inhib.
He can't race in time. He's got to come back to the base. So it's a 3v5 defense. RNG to start 2-0. They keep the first minion alive. They're going to try to clear it. They're going to go for the kill. There's Camille on the backside, and it's not going to be enough. Another kill comes up. A double for Uzi, and it's time for the turret. They've got the shields. They've got the damage. They've got the 4 kills. They will wear it down. And RNG, a 2-0 start to Worlds. The defending champions, 0-2.
What? You can call that a fancy Scion ultimate straight down mid, I guess, Deficio, because that was the key to victory. They just run it straight at Ruler, chase him down, past the turrets, even with the flash. The Scion ultimate still going straight forward. He gets the kill, and RNG went straight to the Nexus.
But it's insane because Gen G were defending so well. They got ahead in this game. They looked to be in the advantage in the driver's seat. They were taking some good fights in their favor. And then RNG just called, wait, this guy, no ulti. Scion ult towards him, and Ruler tried to flash almost in a straight line out of it. Ends up being caught on his own, and what a call. That's what world-class teams can do.
Choo-choo, my friend, choo-choo! RNG, take that one straight to the victory screen. You make a mistake like that versus a team of this caliber, and you will be punished to the highest degree.
The LPL and Freight Trains, name a more iconic duo. They got that dive to work, that end game play. This is just an amazing World Championship to watch so far. Gen G starting out 0-2 is a shock to many. They tied for first in the regular season of the LCK. They had a great run through the regional qualifier. We know they're a good team. Their players get the world buff. They certainly played RNG close here, but to make that one happen, that was amazing. That last play I want to see again, the Acer Predator replay of Let Me closing out the game and finding Ruler there was absolutely the highlight of this one. This was amazing.
Yeah, this one, remember, all the mid lane turrets are still up when they start this, but he just runs it straight down mid, right at Ruler, who flashes and corners himself a little bit. Rise Realm Warp allows him to cut off the backside, minions go in, everybody jumps through to take down the Zaya and break this Gen G composition from the inside.
I don't think any other team would make that call right there. Like,
Yeah, I
see
agree.
that opening in the moment. There's a guy split pushing as well you have to deal with. And just take a sign ult from really far back, and you get to him, and you actually kill him. That was insane.
It was insane. That was up against the wall, but they made it happen. RNG 2-0 to start Worlds. And now for more on how today wrapped up, let's send it off to the analyst desk for Worlds Cooldown.
Thank you very much, Freak. Welcome to Worlds Cooldown. We could not have asked for a better matchup to close out the day. But the way in which that game ended, in an instant, split-second decision-making out of RNG, let me with the engage. In a game where it looked like Samsung might be finally wrestling full control away from them and might get their first victory on the world stage.
Yeah, and RNG has really good teamwork because that was a very well-executed split push by Genji for so much of the game. Just, you want to say it's like an anticlimactic ending, but that's
It kinda was.
That's how RNG wins games. I mean, there was a similarly hype moment in Game 4 of the MSI final where they flash engaged with Ornn and Malzahar on the AD carry to get that win. And even though it's just a group stage game, they did it again here.
And it's all calculated. That's my takeaway, Jed, is they listened to the comms and they had communicated. Uzi was actually the one with the timer that the QSS was still down in that game. When Prey was caught, in this particular game, we were watching the Siege a moment earlier and we were noting, oh, Xayah can't walk up. She doesn't have the Featherstorm. She can't walk up and she's afraid of Karsa collapsing. This was Ruler still without ultimate. The choo-choo train down the mid lane. It catches him. The flash wasn't good enough from Ruler. And while the game ends there and you feel like there was some Titanic fights that we missed, it was still RNG being calculated, being committal, and it was just an awesome, awesome game.
Yeah, because that's all it takes. Genji had done so much.
So much good.
To get to that point. They had weathered the storm, it felt like, from the Frozen Heart Thornmail Scion that was going to be unkillable with Lulu as your only magic damage, and made it to that point where Ruler was strong and they had sideway control, but RNG just had to land that one play and the game was over.
Without a doubt, as we roll through some of the highlights of the game, we see that it was very back and forth at different moments, having to cede certain objectives in order to get advantages elsewhere. I mean, without a doubt, this is top-tier play from two very high-quality teams.
I think both teams had their head held high after this game. Obviously, Genji yesterday would have been pretty crestfallen to lose the game they did. But here, you know, even when it came to the draft, we really liked the adaptations Genji did. It was pretty much mirroring what Frosk and I were talking about in terms of win conditions. When it all came down to it, it didn't even need an Uzi team fight. It was really about execution, specifically Letme's ultimate that took it over. But so many little moments in Cuvée flexing on this Camille again and again. It made you think about the what-ifs. Definitely, they'll come away disappointed, but hopefully Genji is galvanized from this performance and not just feeling like the maths, the 0-2, is really the important takeaway.
I mean, Cuvée had a number of just incredible plays within that game alone. The avoid on the gank at level 6 in the top lane with the ult flash hook shot out, right? We saw that one really inventive team fight where things looked bad in the mid lane, but here's Cuvée down, you know, in the red side jungle, just kind of one-man army to salvage it. I mean, it's just I love watching him in the world's buff.
I know, very true. Across all of that, though, Uzi still had over 400 CS at 32 minutes.
Stop bringing us back down.
Doing his work. It's just what happens, right, with this unstoppable bottom lane, and that was as subdued as we've seen him in a while. And like I said, he still had 400 CS at 32 minutes.
He had 400 CS, but he wasn't leagues above Ruler in terms of team fights. It wasn't a game where you said, it was Uzi's contribution over Ruler that actually got the victory compared to, say, Asia games, where I know a lot of our viewers didn't get to see it, but that was Uzi just executing better than Ruler. This was a lot more even though Uzi got the farm. At this point, you always pencil it in. He's always going to get his farm. You win the game in another way than getting a CS lead over Uzi.
And it was interesting to see that the Sivir was the pick to come out. We saw the Kai'Sa targeted, which was interesting because there has been some discussion about when you're facing RNG, do you even bother targeting Uzi in the pick ban phase, or do you just kind of let it go? The Xayah gets picked away from him. Sivir the response. I just found that kind of curious.
Yeah, not only they actually weren't willing to opt into any of the Kai'Sa skill matchups, right? Because Uzi will win both sides of the Xayah Kai'Sa with the help of Ming. So it is interesting to see what his answer to that is. Teams will kind of, I think, put that in their back pocket, think, okay, he's going to go for Sivir in this situation because we don't know how much the AD carry meta is going to evolve, but we know most teams don't actually force you into that level, and Uzi's answer is Sivir.
Without a doubt, today, 6 more players stood out above the rest to become the MasterCard players of the game. For Game 6, RNG's Let Me earned the accolade, and he will join the likes of Flash Wolves Betty, PVB's Big Koro, Fnatic's Caps, IG's Rookie, and C9's Jensen.
Yeah, really an exciting day of games all the way from the start. Flash Wolves jumping out to a 2-0. Big Koro helping Fengbu Buffalo pick up their first win. Caps and Rookie, who we're going to get to see face off tomorrow. Both getting the Aurelia versus Syndra matchup and both taking advantage of that. So really exciting day. No junglers or supports on the list today. Just a lot of carry performances in the big tank right at the end.
And in the big Titanic games, Jensen was the one who got NA their first victory. And I feel like really deserves this. He's on a team with so many stars that the MVP will so rarely go to a Scion player, but from the early Frozen Heart Ninja Tabi roams to the eventual ult at the end, he really was the difference.
Really cool to see that kind of the story of that game was a lot about the top laners. You know, Scion out to kind of an early advantage with that easy tankiness that he can build up. Ooh, now we got the scaling Camille. And then that one engage. That's all you need is one good engage to close out the game and let me gets it.
And the best games of League of Legends, either they feel like a war is being played out or it is a bit of a war of attrition, a bit of a boxing match. And this really did feel like a boxing match until the knockout punch on Ruler was what ended the game. So you don't always get all 9 rounds, but I think the analogy holds true in this particular game.
Well, to hear more about RNG's win over Gen G, Avli is standing by with the victorious mid laner.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with RNG Zhao Hu, and tell me about that final engage, because we saw Let Me just running down through mid. So what was going on through the team comps, and what was going on through your head?
就是想问你最后那一波，当 Let Me 开车往里面冲的时候，当时就是队友是怎么沟通的，然后你自己是怎么想的？
因为最后一波那个霞是没有水银跟大招的嘛，然后我们原来的想法可能只是想打他个闪，但是可能入了选手闪现的位置也不是特别好吧，所以就。 后边也就有了去把他秒了的想法吧。
So initially they only was going for Ruler. So Ruler doesn't have his ultimate, and he also doesn't have Quicksilver, the QSS. So they only want to get a flash maybe out of Xayah, but he maybe misplayed the flash. Therefore they had a chance to kill him and actually eventually ending the game.
And some people saw this matchup as almost a preview of 2 potential finalists. And now that it's over, who do you really think is your biggest opponent here at Worlds?
就大家之前可能就会觉得 Genji 和 RNG 会是最强的2个队伍。那么现在你们打赢了 Genji， 你会觉得你们下一个最大的对手是谁？
我觉得我们小组里另一位对手 VIT 也是非常强烈的对手吧，他也是赢下了根基，然后后边另一个队也是差点赢下吧。然后的话。 还有什么来着？
你们队吗？
就这样吧。
So you think Vitality in their group is also a really strong team. So Vitality is also able to beat Genji yesterday, and they almost win today as well. So they think Vitality is going to be a strong opponent.
Well, you're playing against them tomorrow, and they're a team that's incredibly aggressive and almost unpredictable. So how do you really prepare for that?
所以你们明天就要跟 Vitality 打了嘛，然后他们其实进攻线很强，然后也很难预料，所以你们会怎么准备去面对他们？
应该也不会做什么特别的准备吧，就保持我们一贯的风格，就做好我们自己该做的事情就可以了。
So we'll just do normal preparation, just play our style, do what we do best, and it should be fine.
Zhao, thank you and congratulations again. And that's it for us. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Avli. Looking forward to that Vitality matchup tomorrow. Says, hey, normal prep. We can't, let anything get into our heads. If we keep doing our jobs the way they have been done, we'll keep coming away with the victories. But if we pull up the standings, we see that in Group A, Flash Wolves are on top. And Freak of Freaks of all teams are at the bottom at 0-2. Followed by Group B with Royal Never Give Up in first, followed by Cloud9 and Vitality at 1-1, leaving reigning champs Gen G winless. Group C returns tomorrow, and Group D started groups with Fnatic and Invictus Gaming each picking up 1 win. Of course, this was very interesting to see, but I also wanted to break things down regionally and just get a sense of how each region is performing here at Worlds, so we ranked them. LPL sits undefeated at the top, the only undefeated region remaining at Worlds.
And the LCK, which I'm here representing 1-4 down the bottom, and this is definitely the scoreline I look at, and I think a lot of people will look at, and plenty of sneering will be done. But if you talk about the 1-2 yesterday into the 1-4 today, we still saw the Korean teams really level up their performance. So even though the numbers are worse, I still come away with a lot of optimism today, even if the Korean teams didn't come away with any victories.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely insane that Korea is sitting at 1-4. You do have to keep in mind that their #1 seed has only played one of those games, and it's the other 2 that have gone 0-2. But even that is crazy in the way that it's happened, because aside from Genji, if we look at pick and percentages, I don't have them, I would imagine that both the Freak of Freaks and KT Rolster are expected to be clearly #1 in their group.
Yep.
But we have I don't think that has ever happened before in World's history after 2 days to have them the lowest in the regional record.
Right. Neither of you have a Korean team missing quarterfinals, right? I don't believe I do either.
That hasn't happened since 2013,
right,
when the group format was different. There were more teams in the group and only a set number advanced. So it's insane. But to Papa Smithy's point, after watching the improvement we saw from Gen.G and the history of Korea, I expect them to bounce back to a point.
Right.
But I mean, this is probably going to be their worst group stage showing, just considering they already have 4 losses.
Already more losses in group stage than last year at Worlds for the entire region.
It's a world's worth of losses in the first 2 days.
Yeah, it's insane. But we have to remind ourselves that, 2 days in, we have seen greater comebacks when it comes to making it out of groups, and so still very possible for those teams to do it. Outside of a maybe disappointing start for LCK, what's maybe a nice surprise that you guys between regions? Obviously, EU LCS doing well, but LMS showing up in the Flash Wolves?
LMS and the EU LCS. I really want to track to see if Flash Wolves can actually become one of the world's powerhouses. It's too early to say after 2 games, but the fact that they are 2-0, look so convincing against Africa. You wonder if they could be a 6-0 group team. We saw at the top of the day, only 3 teams have gone 6-0 in this group stage in the last 4 years. So that's what I'm tracking, and the EU LCS has done great as well.
To me, it's how glass half full this Worlds is, because the only 2 0-2 teams are Gen.G and Africa. The 2 Korean teams, the only teams to have lost twice. We had PVB win today, which was a bit of a surprise result given their performance yesterday. The best thing about that, though, is there's no-hopers 2 days in. There's no one who you're like, I can skip that game. That's true. They've already been run over twice. The Korean teams may go on to lose further games, but not many people will be tipping 0-6s there. So even though some of that might be that every team hasn't played twice yet, there still is a lot of optimism that this World that's already had a lot of left turns potentially has a lot more. This is really exciting. The meta is still developing. Right now, the champion pool of what's good and what's bad, the what's good part seems to be pretty solidified. We're not going past, say, 35, 30 picks, but it's also only 2 days in. It's still some unexplored territory.
Right, let's dive into that a bit. We did just see the Lulu in the mid lane, right? So there's still some experimentation to be done. Priorities developing over these first 2 days that you guys think you might want to pull at or talk about.
Yeah, well, for this one, it's more of what's different from the play-in stage to the group stage right now, and I see that in the AD carry meta. I feel like in the play-in, Kai'Sa was just blind pickable by usually the Pool 1 teams that were at the top of it. And now it feels like Xayah is actually the blind pickable one that is being picked into almost any matchup, and oftentimes you're willing to pick it into Kai'Sa, and they're actually not letting the Kai'Sa get online.
And it's also a first pick Xayah scenario most often. We had that in the first 2 games at World, and it's largely been tracking from there. I think in the past, the thought was Rakan and a generic AD carry is better than Xayah and a generic support, but that hasn't borne true in this particular meta. It does very well. It's a consistent champion, has an escape with the ultimate, and in general, scales pretty well and has a decent laning phase. And when we see teams overcomplicate matters and go, Kai'Sa Rakan, which is your first thought, right? Oh, the Kai'Sa's left open and we need to separate away the Rakan. That lane is so weak in the 2v2 that it's been kind of smashed in most games. So given the quirk of the meta, the Xayah priority, it used to be we have a player who's very singularly good at Xayah, like Uzi, otherwise you wouldn't reach for the Xayah, but now it's the tournament meta, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I see a lot of the other champions in the meta are influencing this. It's very difficult for an Aatrox to get on top of a Xayah. Even the better hard engaged champions like Ornn, Gragas, Leona, Alistar, Xayah can actually counter-engage a lot of those things. And still does large DPS. So those are things that Kai'Sa can't necessarily do in the late game team fight. So comp dependent, you could argue that Xayah can be better late.
Even in that final interview there with Xiaohu, he kind of talked about that final engage, knowing that Xayah's ultimate was down, was an attempt to get the flash. Right? They knew they still had one more defensive spell to get through before they could really capitalize. Yes, a misplay on the flash may have helped them out there. But again, it'll be very interesting to track champion priority as it, evolves throughout the tournament. We've seen things change late into the knockout stages in previous tournaments, and so I'm sure there is still plenty to come. One matchup that I wanted to isolate in tomorrow, we talked about IG versus Fnatic, as these teams only played their first game today. Caps, Rookie both put 2 incredible individual performances out there on the same champion in Aurelia in the same matchup against a Syndra. How do you guys feel about the way these two players are going to match up tomorrow against each other?
You couldn't have wrote it better in the fact that they were the two highest-ranked mid laners on our top 20 players at World list. And then we got like a scientific experiment.
Yeah.
They both played Aurelia versus Cinder. That's about as isolated as you get in League of Legends, even if the jungler matchups were
a little,
different.
yeah.
Like, today, Caps would have played better because of the 5 solo kills, but Rookie had a hell of a game.
We couldn't control all the variables, so the scientific experiment probably can't publish it in a journal yet, but we're close, which is important.
Right.
My takeaway with
I'll
these
start
two-
workshopping it, and we'll see what we can do.
As long as I get my name on there, I need to
got
be
you.
published.
I
But
got you.
my big takeaway with Caps versus Rookie, apart from, man, isn't this going to be awesome, and also the fact that we got that, is I look at Caps and this very aggressive player, and he actually reminds me of someone. I was sitting there thinking, who is it? It's Rookie in 2015 when he was on IG. They came to Worlds and underperformed. I don't think that's the analogy I'm looking for, but that was when Rookie put everything on his shoulders. I have to perform. My team be damned. I'm going to do it myself. And I think Caps is still in that phase. He's still very much at the start of where he'll end up. I think while Rookie still has a flair for the dramatic, he loves the Yasuo, he loves the sick outplay, it took 3 or 4 years for him to understand the defensive side, to understand the team side, to not just look at his lane and look at the whole. And I believe that Caps certainly is on that road. But I think tomorrow, if we get a skill matchup, we might see that experience edge that Rookie has end up being so pivotal, because I don't think he's going to open himself up to a jungle gank or a potential outplay as readily as Caps might.
Yeah, for as aggressive as IG is, having the highest combined kills per minute of teams coming into Worlds at 0.92, I do feel like Caps on an individual level is a slightly more risky player.
Okay.
And that can go either way. It can give you the very small advantages if you don't have vision of a jungler and he's not there, but it can also break your back if he actually is there. So I hope we get a skill matchup.
Yes.
There's also a chance that someone just blind picks Sion and completely dodges the whole situation, but I really want the skill matchup for this game, please.
Here's a question. Rookie is the first player in the summer season recently who's been blind picking Syndra. He beats the Yasuo, he beats a lot of other skill matchups. Let's say they're blue side. I'm not 100% clear. Let's say they're blue side. He locks in Syndra and Aurelia's up. Does he take it?
100%.
Take
Caps
Aurelia.
takes that.
But it's so suspicious given they both just played it.
The jump
It is suspicious.
You know what I mean?
I know you
know what I
what
mean?
you mean.
That is
but
some
you
next
just got
level
5
stuff.
solo kills on
I
the
knew it.
world stage the day before in the same matchup. You don't not run it back, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's jungle
Rookie's
matchup.
ready for that one, baby.
Jungle
Yeah.
matchup as well. If
There's so many factors.
If the Cinder has the Olaf, maybe you don't do it.
Right. That's a good point. That's a
Maybe
good point,
just
right?
have
There are other things that could sway that decision, though. I think you'll lock it in. Just one of the many marquee matchups that we have here at the World Championships tomorrow. And the teams from Group C will start off the day with Mad Team hoping to take down KT Rollster, followed by Team Liquid looking to best EDG. Caps and Fnatic challenging Rookie and Invictus in Game 3, and 3 more matches before we close out the day. Pop, I see you pointing at the screen. What are you lunging at?
RNG Vitality into C9 Genji will tell us so much about this group. C9 are coming off a victory. Genji are coming off by far their better performance. And then just what will Vitality do? Because it's so clear to them where they're going to be outmatched, but it's not so clear to RNG where they're going to go in the draft in terms of Vitality.
Just the fact that we watched that group get drawn and immediately doomed EU and NA, right? Like everyone put them in their grave in that moment. And the fact that through 2 days, it seems like the group has been blown open. Of course, I think tomorrow will be very telling as we finish that first round robin for that group in particular, but oof.
Yeah, I mean, it's a must-win for Genji. Sure, we have had
It's
a team
possible.
start
Fnatic knows.
and make
They're
it out.
there.
Fnatic, the only
true.
team that ever started
Very
03 and make it out. Also, the only team to ever start 04 and make it out. So it's
And
possible.
Cloud9 has been helped getting out of groups in weird tiebreaker situations as well.
Yeah,
so.
that's a must-win. Team Liquid is close to a must-win playing against EDG, but they also have Mad Team coming up on the 4th day for them, so 1 and 2 is not as deadly. Just have to make sure they pick up one of those wins, because my eyes are going to be on that game as I have the battle between EDG and TL deciding second place in that group.
Well, the excitement is just ramping up here on the world stage. That's going to do it for us here. So now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Worlds 2018.